During my childhood, I frequently felt like I was living in the shadows, as my parents were often distant and consumed by their work commitments. I turned to books as my sanctuary, providing a way to escape the loneliness that lingered into my teenage years. I yearned for connection, longing for someone to fill the void I carried within me. Everything changed when I met Clara Elizabeth Hayes in middle school. She brought light into my life, and our friendship swiftly blossomed into a romance that endured through high school, college, and ultimately led to marriage. From the very beginning, I knew I wanted her by my side forever. Despite my parents' reservations, we remained close while maintaining our individual lives. Nevertheless, the times we spent together were always the most meaningful. She was not only my best friend but eventually became my wife. Clara Elizabeth and I were quite different in many respects. She was outgoing, whereas I was more reserved. She excelled in athletics and I leaned towards academics. Despite these contrasts, we shared a sincere connection that kept us bonded. Our relationship was never forced. Instead, we consistently prioritized one another, sharing everything from our dreams to our deepest fears. I wasn't certain I believed in soulmates, but if they did exist, she was mine. When I decided to ask her father for her hand in marriage, he scrutinized everything, and I had to demonstrate the depth of my love for her. I committed to loving her through both good and challenging times. Sadly, the toughest moments arrived just 3 years later. My love for her remained, and I wanted nothing more than her happiness, even if it required me to sacrifice my own. In the months leading up to our separation, Clara Elizabeth became increasingly distant. She started coming home late and no longer greeted me with a smile. Realizing that the person you love no longer feels the same way is heartbreaking. One evening, she quietly walked into the dining room, and I immediately sensed the shift in her behavior. Annie. Hey Liam, are you okay? Not really. Please, sit so I can explain. I had practiced this conversation countless times, knowing I was about to make the most difficult decision of my life. I'm letting you go, Annie. I love you and always will. I don't want to argue or blame anyone. I just want us to decide together what's best for both of us. Okay, of course, Liam. What's going on? Her worried eyes betrayed her. Annie, I've always wanted you to be happy, but I realize you're not happy with me. Tears welled up in her eyes, and strangely, seeing her upset provided some comfort. I don't want to delve into the details. It will only cause more pain, but if we can agree that you're unhappy, it would mean a lot, she whispered. Yes, Liam, I understand. Thank you. Your honesty gives me reassurance. I'm making the right decision. I want a divorce. Diego S. was a man I held in high regard. Alongside his wife Isabella, he raised 8 children in a modest home within a challenging neighborhood. He was both strong and resilient, but what impressed me most was his unwavering loyalty to his family. I owed him an explanation, so I sat with him on his porch over a few beers and finally shared my truth. Mio, why are you here? It's harder than I thought, sir. I've loved no one but your daughter since the day I met her. I promised you I'd always prioritize her, and that's exactly what I'm doing now, even though it means leaving Clara Elizabeth as expected. He responded with anger, mixing English and Spanish as he demanded an explanation I couldn't fully provide. Sir, I love your daughter, but some things have to remain private between us. It pains me to admit that our marriage has failed, but I believe it's for the best. I wanted you to hear it directly from me. Eventually, he calmed enough to let me share more details. Though he was upset and embarrassed, he permitted me to leave without further confrontation. Clara Elizabeth neither cried nor argued, and while I felt a sense of relief, a small part of me wished she would plead for me to stay. Her lack of resistance only confirmed my decision. Her sole reaction was when I mentioned speaking to her father. I spoke to your dad today and explained what I'm about to tell you. I hope we can separate amicably. I don't want financial strain on top of everything else. I've prepared the paperwork for dividing our assets, especially the house. Please review them and let me know by next week. Okay, Liam. I'll take a look at them. I can already hear the criticism. Why not confront her first? I don't have those skills. The last fight I got into was in high school when someone made Clara Elizabeth cry. I nearly got expelled for it, but Diego Hayes helped keep things quiet. The second reason was my own mental health. I was falling apart, losing sleep, and nearly got fired. I had no one to turn to. My mom died of chest cancer while I was in college, and my dad, who became a heavy drinker, moved to Florida and cut off contact. I needed a fresh start, and to achieve that, Clara Elizabeth had to agree to the divorce. I was only 25 and needed to rebuild my life. Revenge wasn't on my mind. 2 weeks later, we found ourselves in the attorney's office. Clara Elizabeth relinquished the house, which we agreed to sell. We divided our bank accounts, and she kept the new car while I retained my old truck. Everything was settled except for the mandatory 90-day waiting period. The only thing I regretted was deceiving Clara Elizabeth. "Where are you going to live, Liam?" "I rented a small apartment near the office. I'll stay there until I get things sorted out." "Good. I guess I'll see you at the house closing, right?" "Absolutely. See you soon, Annie." In reality, I wasn't planning to stay. My truck was packed, and I left my wedding ring on the kitchen table with a note that read, "Goodbye. I will always love you. Be happy." Before leaving town, I bid farewell to Diego Hayes. "Mio, you and Clara Elizabeth belong together. Can't there be forgiveness? Remember your vows." "Yes, it's too sudden, sir. I've forgiven her in my heart. I love your daughter, but I need peace." Elizabeth Hayes gave me a hug at the door as she let me go. She gently said, "God bless you, Mio. I will miss you." I left quickly before I could break down. When your spouse is unhappy, it's important to understand why, but I had no idea. Minor issues had arisen, like leaving the toilet seat up, but recently we hadn't even argued. I thought perhaps she was stressed with work, but she assured me she'd be fine. In an effort to improve our relationship, I took on more household chores, cooking, doing the dishes, laundry, hoping she'd notice. After a few weeks, I even tackled cleaning the bathroom, a task I despised. If I hadn't cleaned it, I might not have discovered the truth. I wouldn't have emptied the trash and found the pregnancy test. Digging deeper, I found a positive result and then checked the birth control pills. They were untouched. That's when I realized another man had impregnated my wife. But who? It didn't take long to find out. I called Clara Elizabeth, intending to confront her, but her number was forwarded to the front desk. They informed me she had already left. Her car was still in the lot, so I drove to her office. About 20 minutes later, my hope that she had an accident was gone. 30 minutes later, I got my answer. Her boss, Noah Thompson, pulled up next to her car. They kissed openly. My smile faded as I saw hers now belonged to someone else. That was all I needed to know. I returned home before her and hid my feelings. That night, she barely acknowledged me. In just over 2 hours, I realized my marriage had come to an end and understood that Las Vegas was a 20-hour drive away. I embarked on the journey over 4 days, traversing through Nebraska, Colorado, and Utah. The serene landscapes made me slow down, and I worried whether my truck could handle the rough terrain. On the 4th day, I checked into a hotel, slept for 18 hours, and spent the following day completing housing applications. Less than a week prior, I was a newly divorced 25-year-old with no family support. Now, I found myself as a first-year law student living in a dorm room, embarking on a fresh start. I wish I could share tales of exciting new adventures after college, but the reality was starkly different. I had no dating experience. Liam and Clara Elizabeth had always been inseparable, and I felt clueless about where to begin in law school. I never went on a single date or formed close friendships. Whenever someone showed interest, I failed to pick up on the cues. Instead, I immersed myself in my studies, using school as a means to escape. I dedicated 4 years to earning my Juris Doctor and MBA, striving for a perfect 4.0 GPA. Clara Elizabeth and I had once discussed returning to school once our finances were stable. So, when I decided to move forward, I took the LSAT, applied to various schools, and was accepted in Las Vegas with a full scholarship. I knew little about the school or the city, only that it was far from home. Every month, I wrote to Mr. and Mrs. Hayes about my academic progress. It became a routine I adopted for my parents, perhaps out of habit or a desire to feel that someone cared. 13 weeks into my first semester, I received a package that mirrored the depth of my shattered heart, truly captured it, and they never inquired about it. They would share updates about their other children but never mentioned Clara Elizabeth, allowing me to believe I still had a caring family. For the first 6 or 7 months, I maintained contact. They never explicitly spoke of forgiveness or reconciliation but hinted at it until those hints abruptly ceased. I never doubted Clara Elizabeth would keep her baby, but I wondered if she would confide the truth to her parents before it became obvious. I also pondered whether Noah Thompson would leave his wife and 3 children to support Clara Elizabeth. I lacked the courage to ask, but I knew a child fathered by a black man wouldn't resemble me. I felt like a coward when I sent flowers, balloons, and a gift basket to the Thompson household to congratulate them on the baby. I also sent a duplicate to Clara Elizabeth's office, addressed to the company president. I vowed not to hurt anyone, including Noah Thompson, but the pain was overwhelming. I didn't spread rumors. I simply offered my congratulations. I was genuinely happy for Clara Elizabeth, knowing she was striving toward her dream of a large family. But I couldn't ignore that her happiness came at the expense of my own suffering. Without knowing the aftermath of my gifts, I imagined a disastrous outcome for Noah Thompson, no matter how unlikely. This small, cowardly gesture allowed me to close that chapter of my life. I was still in pain, but it was over. My social life took a hit for years following the divorce. My first real friend was a colleague 20 years my senior. I joined a small law firm specializing in real estate, where I discovered a talent for contracts, numbers, and eventually working with people. Liam, people need to trust you to solve their problems. They hand you the keys to their dreams, and you have to deliver. You've got a gift, and I'll help you use it. Ethan Fitzgerald, the senior partner, became more than just my boss. He was my mentor and life coach. A legend in real estate law, he was renowned for negotiating multimillion-dollar deals. He decided to make me his next project, and just 90 days into my career, he provided me with my first evaluation. Liam, you're dedicated and meticulous. You do excellent work. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. But as a person, you're completely out of touch. Are you 30 or 90? Let's go for a walk. That's how our weekly Liam project meetings began. Fitzgerald was exceptionally intelligent. He would ask insightful questions, allowing me to talk and share stories. I opened up about everything. My life, my parents, law school, and Clara Elizabeth. We have a lot to work on, but also a lot to work with. Now, let's get back to the office. At first, I didn't grasp his intentions, but after 3 years, the results were undeniable. His subtle guidance fostered my personal growth. I started going to the gym, learned to cook, made smarter investments, and began buying real estate. Without his assistance, I might have led a comfortable middle-class life, but with his help, I became a confident and successful businessperson. Fitzgerald never sought credit, often saying, "Watching you succeed is thanks enough." I worked with Fitzgerald for nearly 5 years. After helping me achieve business success, he shifted his focus to my personal life. One day, he casually asked, "Liam, what are you getting your parents for their anniversary?" I was puzzled since both my parents had passed away, and he was aware of that. "Come on, Liam. Next month, Diego and Elizabeth Hayes will be celebrating 50 years of marriage. Only an idiot wouldn't mark an event like that." He was right. The Hayes were like parents to me. I kept in touch with them, sending messages and gifts for their golden anniversary. I went all out. First-class airfare, a 5-star hotel stay, a limo, fine dining, and VIP show tickets in Las Vegas. I included a note that read, "Happy anniversary. Use these as you wish. Love, Liam." I didn't expect anything in return, so I was taken aback when I received a call at noon the next day. "Liam Gallagher?" I answered. "Oh, mijo, what a wonderful surprise. But this is too much," Mrs. Hayes exclaimed. "Mrs. Hayes, it's lovely to hear from you, but you and your husband deserve this, and I'm honored to give it to you," I replied warmly. "Oh, Liam, you've always been such a wonderful boy. Un momento, Diego wants to talk, she said, handing the phone to her husband. Liam, Mr. Hayes began. Yes, sir, I responded, sensing what was coming. Liam, this is too much. I can't let you go to such lengths. I can't imagine the cost. It's too much, he continued, his words tumbling out. Senor Hayes, Diego, Papa. I gently interrupted. Yes, Liam, he replied, finally pausing. This gift doesn't even begin to repay the kindness you've shown me over the years. It brings me joy to give it to you. Please accept it in the spirit it was intended. I do, I said sincerely. After a brief silence, he responded, Si, mijo, we accept. Wonderful. Happy anniversary. I replied, feeling a sense of relief. The conversation shifted to the details of the trip, and I shared all the highlights I thought they'd enjoy. After exchanging numerous words of gratitude and love, we ended the call. For the first time in nearly a decade, I felt a sense of peace as I reflected on that moment. I noticed Fitzgerald standing in my doorway with a big grin on his face. Damn ungrateful kids, he chuckled. Shut up, old man, I retorted with a playful smile. The Hayes vacation didn't turn out exactly as I had envisioned. While they did enjoy sightseeing, indulging in fine dining, and relaxing as I had hoped, they were insistent that I accompany them every step of the way. It became apparent that they hadn't even settled into their room for 5 minutes before my phone rang again. Liam Gallagher? I answered once more. Mijo, when are you coming to see us? Mrs. Hayes asked eagerly. Hello, Mrs. Hayes. How was your flight? I replied, trying to buy some time to think. Good, good. Diego says we need to rest for a bit, but then we're ready to go. Will you be here? She pressed. I can be there in about an hour, I responded, realizing I needed to shuffle my plans. Great, mijo. See you then, she said cheerfully before ending the call. To be honest, I hadn't intended to spend much time with the Hayes during their trip. They had a full itinerary, and my desk was buried under a mountain of work. As I was trying to figure out how to adjust my schedule, Fitzgerald walked in accompanied by 2 parole officers. Liam, I've given you some time off. You need a break. Now, leave and don't come back for a week, or you're fired, Fitzgerald ordered firmly, leaving no space for negotiation. The parole officers swiftly gathered my papers and cleared my workspace. Liam, spend some time with your parents. I'll take care of everything else, Fitzgerald added, his tone softening slightly but still resolute. So I complied. The Hayes were adamant about visiting my office, and Fitzgerald, who rarely made jokes about work, seemed prepared for our arrival. When we got there, he personally toured the Hayes around, introducing them as my parents. In the conference room, he spent nearly an hour discussing my work, lauding my achievements, and treating the Hayes with utmost respect. It was incredibly touching to see the Hayes radiate pride, especially Isabella, who kept gently patting my hand every time someone offered praise. We're so proud of you, mijo. The following week continued in the same vein. Fitzgerald's influence was palpable everywhere we went. I had arranged the limo, resort stays, restaurants, and shows through my business contacts, but Fitzgerald ensured we received VIP treatment. Owners and directors welcomed us warmly, sharing anecdotes about how I had assisted them and providing us with the best seats, fine wines, and exceptional service. It was impressive. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, I have to admit, this week has been more eventful than I expected. I know these people, but I've never experienced this level of service before. My daily life is much simpler. Liam, it's wonderful that you have so many friends who wanted to show us how special you are. We've always known you were exceptional, and we've always been proud to call you that. Isabella couldn't finish her sentence, so Diego stepped in. Our son, you are who you are and always will be. You took an oath before God that made you part of our family, and you fulfilled that vow. You've been a constant in our lives since you were a baby, and we've had the honor of watching you grow into a fine man any father would be proud of. Liam, we love you and are incredibly proud of you. Diego Hayes had aged gracefully, his strength still evident. His embrace felt powerful, almost like he might break a rib, and moments later, Isabella joined in, giving me a heartfelt family moment that filled me with immense joy. Their visit seemed to pass in the blink of an eye, and I felt a tinge of sadness as they left, but I assured them I would visit soon. After attending to some business matters, Fitzgerald seemed to understand exactly what I needed next. I returned to work with renewed motivation, and when I shared my new idea, he simply smiled and gave his approval. Although the project was small and unlikely to generate long-term income, it was perhaps the most significant one I had ever undertaken. Within 6 weeks, I had completed nearly all the title deeds, secured a buyer with full financing, and made several key phone calls. Equipped with this new information, I booked a flight back to my hometown for the first time in almost 10 years. At the airport, I encountered Zoe and Emma, who were working at a coffee kiosk. I overheard them discussing their broken appliances and an unresponsive landlord. When Zoe handed me my coffee, I handed her my card along with some instructions. "I heard your conversation. I think I can help. Call the number and ask for Jack. Tell him Liam sent you and that you need Leo's assistance. He'll take it from there. If you need help finding a new place, Jack can assist. I've written everything on the back." As my flight was announced, I added, "Don't worry about the cost. Just use the number. Good luck." Why did I offer to help them? Pondered. It was simple. I've dealt with too many problematic landlords in real estate, and Fitzgerald's child taught me that real estate isn't a zero-sum game. The best deals benefit everyone involved. A few phone calls, a letter, and some coordination with a parole officer could help these girls out of their predicament. We occasionally did pro bono work, and this was no different. I had sent Jack a quick email so he wouldn't be surprised when the call came. The flight to Omaha was brief. I picked up my rental car and luggage, then drove around the city. Not much had changed, though. It no longer felt like home. I drove through the Hayes neighborhood, where most houses were in disrepair except for theirs. The area was clearly neglected. My destination was a new condominium complex featuring units above retail spaces, restaurants, a theater, and various stores, including a grocery store. The design was distinctive to the area, and everything seemed flawless. The apartment I had secured was brand new, boasting 2 bedrooms, a spacious open living area, a den, and a large balcony overlooking a park. The master suite was akin to a spa, complete with a jetted tub and a large tiled shower. The place was elegantly furnished with top-of-the-line fixtures and appliances, adorned with a few personal touches, making it feel like home. The Hayes joined me for dinner at one of the restaurants. We arrived on time, dressed up for a night out, and enjoyed a fantastic meal filled with laughter, hoping the rest of the evening would be just as delightful. Diego and Elizabeth Hayes, both 67, had celebrated 50 years of marriage. They were still youthful at heart but bore the marks of a lifetime of hard work. During our time in Las Vegas, I learned they were ready to retire, but were concerned about their finances and living in a neighborhood plagued by crime and abandoned houses. My mission was to change that. As Fitzgerald had reminded me, this is what children do for their parents. I invited the Hayes back to the condo for a late-night party. As we stepped into the elevator, they looked pleasantly surprised. "Mijo, these rooms must be expensive." "Yeah, we need to discuss that." When I opened the apartment door, they were visibly impressed with the space. I had consulted with their 7 children to understand the Hayes dream home, ensuring I incorporated all their preferences. Their attention then turned to the champagne. "Are we here to celebrate?" "Absolutely, I believe so. What's the special occasion?" "I just uncorked the champagne. To toast your retirement and your new home." I lifted my glass, sweeping my gaze around the room. "Oh my gosh. This is incredible. We can't possibly accept this. It's not exactly a gift, but you'll certainly have more than enough to purchase it. Please, take a seat so we can discuss it further." They hesitated, yet everything was unfolding smoothly. "When we finalize these agreements, we'll establish a partnership named the Hayes Investment Group. First, we'll acquire 19 properties in the vicinity of your home. Next, we'll bundle them with your current residence, apply for a zoning modification, and sell the combined package to Property Management International, which intends to develop a hotel and retail space adjacent to the new arena. We'll receive the proceeds from the sale within 90 days. I pointed out the highlighted monetary figure on the document. Their reactions were of sheer astonishment. This apartment is leased for the next 3 months with an option to purchase. Here's the breakdown of the expenses. I handed them another document. Half of the remaining profits will fund a lifetime annuity for both of you, providing monthly dividends. I presented the third paper. You'll be able to retire comfortably in your new home. I'm merely offering business counsel and complimentary legal services. They wouldn't amass vast wealth, but they'd never, ever have to work again. It was a solid safety net, and it was more than sufficient. Liam, how did you arrange all of this so swiftly? Securing the property next to yours required some effort, but Rothschild managed to find a buyer through his connections. With a new casino under construction across the river in Iowa, we negotiated the price accordingly. The zoning change will be approved with assistance from our contacts on the city council. The rest is simply a sound investment strategy. Isabella shed tears but smiled, while Diego shook his head in disbelief. It's miraculous, beyond what we could have imagined. Clara Elizabeth's voice resonated with genuine astonishment. No one deserves this more than you. Likewise, I responded, offering heartfelt congratulations. I hadn't seen or heard from Clara Elizabeth in a decade. Her parents and siblings never mentioned her, and she had long since faded from my thoughts. But seeing her again felt like waking from a deep slumber. I had loved her throughout my youth and early adulthood, yet now those feelings had dissipated. Our encounter was purely coincidental. I needed to pick up a few items for an upcoming trip, and the new mall housed one of my favorite stores. As I browsed, a familiar voice reached my ears from behind. "You have excellent taste," Clara Elizabeth remarked, her tone blending surprise with nostalgia. I turned to find her looking much as I remembered. Aged gracefully, her smile less radiant and carrying a few more lines, with a touch of added weight. She was simply a more mature version of the woman I once married. "Hi, Clara Elizabeth," I greeted her, uncertain of what to expect. "Why are you here?" she inquired, her voice tinged with curiosity. "I'm shopping. And you?" "Oh, I work here now," she explained. "I meant, why are you in town?" "Just wrapping up some business and catching up with old friends," I replied. "Was I on your list of friends to visit?" she asked, her tone half joking yet holding a hint of hope. "Honestly, no," I admitted. "Oh, I see. Nice to see you, Liam," she responded, a touch of disappointment in her voice. "You too, Clara Elizabeth," I replied, thinking that would be the end of it. Awkward but manageable. I didn't expect to run into her again, but as I was leaving, I noticed her at the cash register. After completing her transaction, she approached me once more. "Liam, how long will you be in town?" she asked, her tone more tentative this time. "Maybe a few days," I answered, still unsure where this was leading. "Do you think we could meet up and talk, even just a little?" she requested, handing me her card. "I'll think about it," I responded, taking the card without committing to anything. I walked away without another word. I had moved on and didn't have anything more to say to her yet. Despite my reservations, 2 nights later, I found myself alone in a booth at one of my favorite bars, a place where Clara Elizabeth and I used to gather with friends after work on Fridays. Felt different now. When she arrived, she was elegantly dressed in a little black dress that accentuated her curves, paired with black heels and meticulously applied makeup. If she had been a stranger, I might have offered to buy her a drink. She looked stunning. I didn't stand as she slid into the booth across from me. She paused for a moment before speaking. "You lied to me," she began, her voice carrying an accusatory edge. "And you lied to me first," I countered, both of us fully aware of the other's meaning. She seemed momentarily embarrassed before continuing. "I didn't think you'd actually leave town. I hoped we'd have a chance to talk." "What would have been the point?" I asked, genuinely puzzled. "I don't know, but I wasn't happy when you left," she confessed, her voice softening. "Well, you didn't give me a choice, so I don't feel guilty about your unhappiness," I replied, my tone blunt yet honest. She appeared taken aback by my straightforwardness, but I wasn't interested in sugarcoating the past. Liam, I never stopped loving you, even after what I did, she said, her voice wavering slightly. I sighed, sensing she was about to delve into old wounds. Clara Elizabeth, the only redeeming aspect of our divorce was that you never lied to me. Probably because I didn't give you a chance, but I won't stay here if you're going to lie now. What exactly do you want? Why are we even having this conversation? Nothing will change what happened, and you never stood up for me. You just gave up without a fight. It all happened so suddenly. Why did you leave without trying? I thought you loved me. We'll have to agree to disagree, I replied calmly. From my perspective, you abandoned me without a word, leaving no chance to mend things. I simply documented it in writing. That was a mistake, Liam. A huge mistake, and I'm truly sorry. Clara Elizabeth's voice quivered as she spoke, her eyes searching mine for forgiveness. I felt a surge of frustration. The time we had spent apart had given me clarity, but it seemed Clara Elizabeth was still clinging to unrealistic hopes. That's nonsense, I countered firmly, determined not to let her distort our past. Tears welled up in her eyes, but I knew she was lying. Just because things didn't turn out the way she wanted doesn't mean she could rewrite history. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending you care, I continued sharply. I did care, Liam. I loved you. I still love you, she insisted, her voice thick with emotion. Do you really believe that? I asked skeptically. It's the truth, Liam, she affirmed, her gaze unwavering. All right, let's dig into that, I said, leaning forward slightly. Was it you or Noah Thompson who decided I should be denied intimacy with my loving wife? She met my eyes, a flicker of shame crossing her face before she reluctantly admitted, it was him. So your endless love for me led you to sleep with another man and follow his wishes, knowing it would hurt me? I asked, my voice laced with sarcasm. Liam, she began, but I cut her off. How long did you wait before stopping birth control? I demanded. She stammered, unable to find the words. You didn't accidentally get pregnant. You wanted him to father your child. When were you planning to tell me? Or were you going to pretend it was mine? I pressed further, watching her squirm. She remained silent. Why aren't you with him? Where is he? I shifted the focus, seeking answers. He didn't want me, she confessed softly. His wife found out, and so did his boss. His wife divorced him, and he had to resign. He left me. I had to quit my job too. It was too embarrassing, and I'm supposed to feel bad. Why? I asked, my tone icy. I don't know, Liam, she whispered, her voice breaking. I made a mistake, got involved in something bad, and couldn't stop. I know I was wrong. Can't you forgive me? I love you. I died the day you left and have missed you ever since. I wanted you to come back to give me a chance to apologize, to tell you I'd never do it again. I'm all alone, Liam. My parents barely talk to me, my siblings avoid me, and I have no friends. I'm completely alone, Clara Elizabeth. I forgave you a long time ago, but there's no going back, I stated firmly. You have your child. He can keep you warm at night. That's cruel, Liam, she replied, her voice tinged with hurt. No, it's more cruel than the lies you're telling me, I countered, remaining steadfast. I'm not lying, Liam. I want another chance. It's what I've dreamed of all these years, she pleaded. It's never going to happen, I declared unequivocally. Why, Liam? She asked, her voice filled with desperation. I know you love me. You said you always would, she reminded me, her tone growing more desperate. I've always loved you, but that's not enough, I admitted, feeling the weight of the truth settle between us. Why not? She asked, her voice trembling. There are 2 reasons, I began. First, I'm not the same person who married you. I've changed, and you don't know me anymore. I certainly don't know you if I ever did, I explained. You do know me, Liam. I'm still the same woman you loved. So what's the second reason? She pressed, clinging to a sliver of hope. That's the first honest thing you've said, But here's the second reason, I continued. And a question. You wanted someone else? And I let you have him without a harsh word because I loved you. Since I left, I've gone to law school, passed the bar, started a new career, and built a new life. But I haven't been with another woman since our last time together. So tell me, how many men have you been with while you've been pining for me? Clara Elizabeth couldn't even look me in the eye. You see, Anne, I knew you were telling the truth. But back then I didn't realize that the woman I loved was a lying, cheating person. How could I ever trust you again? Why would I even want to? Give me one reason why I'd let you back into my life that wouldn't just benefit you. If you can do that, maybe we have a chance. She cried quietly as I stood up to leave. That's what I thought. Goodbye, Clara Elizabeth. 3 months later, I encountered them again while returning to Omaha for business. Everything seemed to be progressing smoothly, and Diego and Isabella were thriving in their new home. Witnessing their happiness warmed my heart. The women working at the coffee kiosk were giggling and smiling, adding to the cheerful atmosphere. This time, I was engrossed in my phone when they called my name. Mr. O'Connor, a voice called out, pulling me from my thoughts. Yes? How can I help you? I responded, turning to face them. At first, I didn't recognize the two women, but then it clicked. Oh, right. How did it go? I asked, recalling our previous interaction. Fine, Mr. O'Connor, the brunette replied. We wanted to thank you, but we didn't know how. It's Liam, and no thanks are necessary. I'm just glad it worked out, I responded with a reassuring smile. The brunette, a charming woman named Zoe with curly hair and a warm smile, spoke while her cousin Emma, a shy blonde, stood quietly beside her. As my flight was announced, I began gathering my belongings, preparing to board. Nice to see you both again, I said, ready to leave. Just as I was about to step away, Zoe hurried over and handed me a napkin with a phone number scribbled on it. We'd like to thank you properly. Will you call when you get back? She asked, her tone hopeful. Caught off guard, I simply nodded. Sure, no problem, I responded, slipping the napkin into my pocket. During major holidays like Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, the 4th of July, and Cinco de Mayo, our family always came together. It was unusual to ask everyone to gather in September, but that's exactly what I did. I was pleasantly surprised that everyone could fit into the Hayes' new apartment. The space was snug yet comfortable enough for our reunion. All eyes were on me, waiting for my words. This was shaping up to be one of the most challenging moments I'd ever faced. They might have thought it wasn't my place to speak, but it felt necessary. As Fitzgerald always advised, I was trusting my instincts. I wanted everyone present so I could deliver my message once, ensuring everyone heard it simultaneously. Being welcomed as a full member of this family has been one of my greatest joys. Diego and Isabella, your unwavering love and support have helped me navigate through difficult times, and I'll always be thankful for that. However, I also remember that Clara Elizabeth was part of this family too. She shared in our joys and our sorrows just like the rest of us. She betrayed me, and I had to make tough decisions because of that, but she never betrayed any of you. A few months ago, I had a conversation with her for the first time in 10 years. It was a painful exchange. I said some harsh things, but what hurt the most was hearing about all of you from her. So, with all due respect, I need to address this. You all need to stop acting like stubborn fools and cease ostracizing your daughter and sister until she returns to where she truly belongs. I want nothing to do with you, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. I won't reach out, and you shouldn't reach out to me until this nonsense is resolved. The shock on their faces didn't bring me any relief. With those words, I walked away from my foster family, uncertain if our paths would ever cross again. The following year was a whirlwind, both at work and in my personal life. At the office, we were moving at a breakneck speed that was simply unsustainable. After nearly 8 weeks of 14-hour days and relentless deals, Fitzgerald's child had had enough. One evening, in the conference room, he announced, "That's it. I'm done. I can't stand any more of this. We're closing. Everyone, get out and stay away for a week. I'll pay you if I don't have to see you." With that, he left the building. On my first day of the mandatory break, I decided to clean my apartment. As I tidied up, I discovered furniture buried under piles of papers, clothes, and takeout containers. I tackled the laundry, emptied my pockets, and found the napkin with Zoe's number still sitting on my dining room table like an odd centerpiece. By the third day, with my apartment clean and my closet organized, the napkin remained prominently displayed. Summoning my courage, I decided to make the call. I sounded foolish. "Hello, Zoe. Yes? Can I, speak to Zoe, please?" I stammered, feeling my anxiety rise. "This is her," she responded.
Oi, Zoe.
"This is Liam Gallagher. We met at the airport. You gave me your number?" I reminded her, hoping she remembered our brief encounter. "Yes, I remember you, Liam," she replied warmly. "Well, I know it's short notice, but would you and Emma like to come over for dinner tonight? I was thinking of cooking for you both and hearing how things went with your apartment. We got kicked out of the office for a week, and I'm pretty bored," I explained, trying to sound casual. She giggled, and I felt a flush of embarrassment at my own rambling. "Liam, we'd love to have dinner at your place tonight," Zoe responded enthusiastically. "Fantastic. Great. Can I get your address?" I asked, realizing I hadn't provided her with the details yet. I gave her my address, feeling a mix of flustered excitement. Later, when they arrived, I felt much more at ease talking to Zoe and Emma in person. Emma remained quiet, but she made eye contact and smiled, which was enough to put me at ease. "This is a great apartment, Liam. Do you host parties here often?" Zoe asked, looking around appreciatively. My apartment was impressive, largely because it was part of a project Fitzgerald and I had been working on. I had seized the opportunity to buy a 3-bedroom penthouse with a stunning view of the Strip, but I hadn't mentioned that I also owned the entire building. "Actually, you're the first visitors I've had besides my boss," I admitted. "Really?"
No girlfriend.
Zoe inquired, clearly surprised. "Nope. I haven't even been on a date since my divorce 10 years ago," I said casually, focusing on the meal I was preparing. Zoe and Emma settled at the kitchen island, sipping wine while I cooked. Zoe bombarded me with questions, and I found the conversation enjoyable. It was refreshing to talk to someone other than my boss and coworkers. As I continued preparing the meal, I noticed both women staring at me in shock. "Did I say something wrong?" I asked, puzzled by their reactions. "You haven't been on a date in 10 years, Liam?" Zoe repeated, clearly astonished. "No, I haven't. I've been busy with work and studies," I responded, genuinely curious about their reaction. "Is that weird?" I asked, seeking clarification. "Yes," Zoe stated emphatically, and even Emma nodded in agreement. "Well, I guess it is kind of weird," I conceded with a shrug.
Jesus, Liam.
"I can't believe it," Zoe exclaimed, shaking her head in astonishment. "It's true. Anyway, dinner's ready. Let's dig in," I responded, gently redirecting the conversation back to the meal. The dinner turned out to be a delightful evening filled with laughter and good company. I discovered that Zoe was in her final year studying hospitality management, while Emma was pursuing a degree in English with a concentration in creative writing. Both 22 years old, they had been living together since they were 18, following the tragic passing of Emma's parents. As the night progressed, I sensed that Emma harbored feelings for me and began to open up more. The atmosphere felt somewhat charged, and I wondered if they were subtly flirting. I appreciated the attention, even if it was merely in my imagination. By the end of the evening, both women gave me a warm hug and a kiss on the cheek before departing, with Zoe suggesting we meet again soon. I joked that I was free for the rest of the week, and to my surprise, they returned the next day with a picnic basket. We enjoyed lunch on the balcony, basking in the sun until the heat became too intense, after which they headed off to work. It was clear they had taken my invitation to heart. The following evening, they came back with pizza, popcorn, and a movie. They lounged on the couch while I settled into my favorite chair. The next day, Zoe asked if they could use the pool. I assured her I'd take care of everything when they arrived, providing them with keys to the pool and gym, along with a locker. Sometimes it's good to take charge, I mentioned. They also had a surprise for me. When they emerged in their bikinis, I realized I needed to ramp up my workout routine. After that week off, our interactions settled into a comfortable routine. I worked during the day, and a few evenings each week were reserved for dinners, movies, or simply hanging out with Zoe and Emma. On weekends, we engaged in various activities together. They also frequented the gym regularly, even when I wasn't there. Fitzgerald's child loved to tease me about it. If I didn't know you so well, I'd think you were dating two women simultaneously. Give me a break, man. We're just friends. So keep your fantasies to yourself. About 4 months into our friendship, I began to sense that something was amiss. During a quiet Friday night dinner at my apartment, both girls seemed unusually reserved. As the meal concluded, the palpable tension became impossible to ignore. Girls, is something bothering you? I inquired. No, not really. Emma hesitated before adding. Zoe wants to ask you something, but we're not sure how to say it. Zoe, feel free to ask me anything. I don't hold back with you too. Just go ahead, and I promise I won't be offended by your questions. Zoe took a deep breath. Why have you never made a move on us? Don't you find us attractive? I was taken aback and needed a moment to gather my thoughts. You're both incredibly beautiful, but I haven't pursued anything for 2 reasons. First, I don't want to jeopardize our friendship or give you the impression that I'm some older guy seeking a fling. Second, I honestly don't know how to initiate something like this. I've never had the opportunity. Zoe and Emma exchanged a meaningful glance before Zoe continued. Liam, we really enjoy your company, and we both have feelings for you. I enjoy spending time with you too, but Emma and I are looking for someone special, and we want you to understand what that entails. Ladies, you're both exceptionally attractive, and I'm sure each of you will find someone special without any issues, I replied. Emma looked like she wanted to say more, but Zoe pressed on. Liam, we don't want to seek out 2 separate special people. We're looking for one person, and we think that person might be you. I was momentarily stunned, unable to respond. Zoe added, we want you to understand what we're asking. Emma wants you to read some of her work tonight. We believe it will help you grasp what we're seeking, and then we can discuss what this means for all of us tomorrow. Can you do that? I think I can, I replied cautiously. You just want me to read her stories, she clarified. Yes, Liam, and then we can talk, she affirmed. I realize this might give you the wrong impression of me. I hold strong beliefs about right and wrong, and I treat the people I care about with kindness and respect. I believe in live and let live, as long as no one is harmed. However, I can be tough when necessary, especially in business. Fitzgerald's child referred to it as my Jekyll and Hyde quality, giving people a head start but not hesitating to retaliate if crossed. I wasn't like this before Annery broke my heart. Her betrayal made me fiercely loyal to those I trust and ruthless towards those who betray me. For a long time after the divorce, I had little interest in romance. The pain of the separation consumed me, and anything that reminded me of Anne was unbearable. I coped by immersing myself in my studies and work. It took years for the pain to subside. I missed out on many life experiences because I met the love of my life so young. I had never asked a girl out, never had a one-night stand, and didn't know how to attract someone. The fear of rejection held me back. I was confident in many aspects of my life, but thanks to Annery, I felt insecure about relationships. 10 years passed, and I began to think I'd never get the chance to try something new. With that mindset, I read Emma's stories. They were beautifully written, filled with vivid imagery and well-developed characters. Through her writing, I learned a lot about Emma. The following day, the girls showed up around midday. I feared that I might jeopardize our friendship. After grabbing some drinks and snacks, we made ourselves comfortable in the living room. Zoe didn't waste any time. Emma and I aren't engaged with each other romantically. All right, that's crucial to know, but to be honest, I hadn't considered it before. Emma beamed as Zoe continued speaking. We've always had each other's backs. We're not just cousins, we're closest friends. When we started developing feelings for boys, we discussed our preferences and desires. I've always been attracted to kind-hearted, caring men, whereas Emma has a thing for more dominant, alpha personalities. The guys she dated were great in bed but often mistreated her on dates. While I understood why she was drawn to them, I didn't want her to get hurt. They sat close together, holding hands, and then our worst nightmares became reality. One of Emma's boyfriends turned too aggressive, and a few weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. The pregnancy didn't progress well, forcing them to terminate it for her well-being. Complications followed, and Emma is now unable to have children. Tears welled up in their eyes. We always envisioned our children growing up together. We were only 19, and that dream was shattered before it could begin. But my love for Emma goes beyond being cousins. She's more than a friend to me. We chose not to let our dream end. We decided to share my children and raise them together as co-mothers. They glanced at me, assessing my reaction. I was deeply touched by Zoe's generosity. It was one of the most heartbreaking, kindest, and most beautiful stories I had ever heard. They gave me a gentle smile, but then another issue surfaced: finding the perfect person. The guys I was interested in were too weak for Emma, and the ones she liked were too arrogant for me. We needed someone special, someone kind yet confident. And then we met you, Emma whispered, directing her words to me for the first time. My heart pounded. Zoe went on. You supported us without expecting anything in return. It was one of the kindest things anyone has ever done for us. As we got to know you better, we realized you might be the person we were searching for. We decided to be honest with you, even if it meant risking our friendship. I was taken aback, realizing they were offering me a life with both of them. This is a lot to process. I need some time to think. Can we take a break and discuss this more over the weekend? Of course, Gab, and we understand, Zoe responded, and they quickly left. I already knew how I felt but wanted to give them a thoughtful answer. They had shared something very personal, and I wanted to reciprocate in kind. Later that afternoon, after running a few errands, I returned to my apartment and sent a text to Emma before calling Zoe. Hello, Zoe, she answered. Hi Zoe, it's Liam. Would you like to have dinner with me tonight? I asked, trying to sound casual. In the background, I could hear Emma's phone ring, followed by her surprised sigh. Liam, I'd love to have dinner tonight, Zoe responded warmly. Great. I'll pick you up at 7 o'clock, I said, feeling a sense of excitement. After hanging up, I waited for Emma's reply. The message I had sent her was bold. Be at my place at 6:15. Don't be late. You'll be staying the night. Her response came swiftly and simply, perfect. When I arrived to pick up Zoe, I was momentarily speechless. She looked breathtaking in a little black dress. I handed her a bouquet of white lilies. Wow, you look incredible, I said, genuinely impressed. Thank you, Liam, for the flowers and the compliment, she replied with a smile. Our evening was enchanting. We enjoyed wine and sushi at one of her favorite restaurants, then headed to a nightclub for drinks. We discussed our dreams, future plans, kids, and family. By the end of the night, we had formed a deep connection. As we walked through a park holding hands, I couldn't shake a lingering worry. What's troubling you, Liam? Zoe asked, noticing my unease. Why me? I questioned. I'm over 10 years older than you, divorced, and everyone was watching you tonight. You could have anyone, I admitted, letting my insecurities surface. Liam, you'll figure it out soon, but for tonight, can you accept that you're the one? There's no one else for me, she assured me. Yes, I can accept that. Thank you for a wonderful evening, Zoe, I responded, feeling more relaxed. No, Liam, thank you, she replied, squeezing my hand. On Easter Sunday, I found myself back in my old church, feeling out of place. I had converted to Catholicism to marry Clara Elizabeth and had been a dedicated parishioner during our marriage, but returning felt strange. I had been sitting alone for about 15 minutes when someone took a seat next to me. This seems like a good place for confession. Forgive me, Liam, for I have sinned, Annery said, breaking the silence. Annery, I forgave you a long time ago, I responded, turning to face her. I know, Liam, but you forgave me when I didn't deserve it. When I wasn't even sorry, now I understand the pain I caused you. I wish I could take it all back. I always thought you deserved someone better. I'm so sorry I couldn't be the woman you deserved. Thank you for giving me my family back. My dad told me it was because of you. Thank you, and Marie. I appreciate your apology, I responded. You're always welcome, she answered warmly. Mass went smoothly, and the Easter brunch was delightful. However, as the day progressed, I came to the realization that I no longer had a place within the Hayes family. It was time for me to move forward. When the moment to leave arrived, we shared tearful farewells. Elizabeth Hayes embraced me at the door, conveying more understanding than her words. She gently placed her hand on my cheek, closed her eyes briefly, and whispered, "God bless you, Mio. I will miss you." For months, my personal life was anything but ordinary. Zoe, Emma, and I had established a unique routine, spending the majority of our time together as a tight-knit trio. If they had been living with me full-time, we might have only added a few extra hours to our weekly interactions. I was genuinely happy dating Zoe, even though our relationship hadn't advanced beyond kissing. She believed we both knew when the time was right, and I agreed. The strangest part was that she had no issue making me tense up and then directing me to Emma for relief. Emma, on her end, thrived under this setup. Zoe mentioned that Emma had seen me as perfect from the beginning. Emma needed someone to guide her, which made her feel secure and cared for, and gradually, I assumed that role from Zoe. The pivotal moment was the flowers. I hadn't given much thought to presenting them with flowers, but it felt appropriate. I brought Zoe flowers on our first date and on various spontaneous occasions because it was romantic. Emma received her flowers as a token of appreciation, delivered separately due to specific circumstances. My initial date with Zoe was fantastic, but as I returned to Emma, I worried I might not be fulfilling her needs. Thankfully, I didn't have to worry. Over the ensuing months, I spent a lot of time contemplating how to win Emma's heart, but that first night, my instincts took over. When Emma walked in with the brightest smile, holding her flowers, I knew I had made the right choice. As I departed Omaha for the final time, a profound sense of satisfaction washed over me. I had overcome Marie's betrayal, embarked on a new life, and built a career. Yet something was still missing: true happiness. On my way home, I made a quick stop, purchased 2 items, and hurried back. When I arrived, Zoe and Emma were thrilled to see me, and we enjoyed a light-hearted, fun dinner together. I hoped to enhance our lives even further. After dinner, as they tidied up in the kitchen, I watched them collaborate, finding joy in the simple act of being together. "I understand why we haven't been intimate," I remarked. Emma turned to face me while Zoe continued washing dishes, her gaze fixed on the sink. "When we become intimate for the first time, it will be to create life, to share a part of ourselves for a mutual purpose. That's why we'll be together. But there's an even more significant reason. You'll be giving Emma and me something we can't achieve on our own. A child." Emma smiled through her tears. "I believe you've been waiting for me to realize this, and you've waited long enough." I knelt down and pulled out a box. Emma's excitement was palpable as I opened it. Zoe slowly turned, tears glistening in her eyes. "Zoe, will you marry me?" "Yes, Liam. I will. I'll love you forever and give you everything I have." Zoe and Emma embraced first, demonstrating their close bond and how much we all depended on each other. I gently placed the ring on Zoe's finger, and Emma admired it. "That's a beautiful ring, Liam. You're not being left out. Emma, you're an essential part of our lives." I then presented a second box containing an ankle bracelet adorned with a diamond set in a Celtic knot, featuring 3 birthstones: ruby, sapphire, and amethyst. "Emma, we love you and need you. Please never leave us." Zoe was in tears, but Emma remained calm as I fastened the bracelet around her ankle. "I'm home, Liam. I'm not going anywhere." 3 months later, we married in a small ceremony with Emma beside Zoe and Fitzgerald standing next to me. 6 months after that, Lucas Thompson Gallagher was born, followed by twins Ava Grace and Mason Noah, and then baby Mia Lily. The boys resembled me. Ava was a miniature version of Zoe, and Mia was a mirror image of Emma. Their bond was immediate and unbreakable. Were Zoe and I ever jealous that Mia saw Emma as her only parent while we were like beloved aunts and uncles? Not at all. Zoe and I lived as husband and wife, but Emma always remained close. My journey to happiness was gradual, but I eventually found my place again. Our life together was as perfect as any relationship could be. I loved Zoe, Emma, and our children. Zoe loved me, Emma, and the kids. The children adored Emma, needed me, and received a mother's love from her. We never shared our lifestyle publicly, and only our closest friends were aware of the truth, but we lived a very happy life together.